Hey guys, my name is Matimio, and today I have a review of the Famas in Battlefield 4. Many of you probably remember this weapon in the previous game and it not being very good. It had a crazy rounds per minute, which was its strong suit, but it didn't have a lot of rounds in its magazine, only 25. It had a crazy long reload time, and its recoil bounced all over the place, and so it was kind of a very mediocre weapon, and it wasn't very popular. And so I was really interested to see if DICE made some improvements to it and to see how well it performed in Battlefield 4, and I gotta say that it is flat out amazing. I wouldn't go as far to say that it's overpowered. Like don't get me wrong, it does have its strengths and weaknesses, but if you are able to take advantage of those strengths and abuse this weapon and use it appropriately, you can do a lot of damage. Like, you could just destroy the enemy team. And so why do I like this weapon so much? Why does it tickle my fancy? What makes this weapon tick? Well, first off, it is a FAMAS, so it does have a crazy high rounds per minute. It has a RPM of 1,000, and that is the highest out of the assault rifles, and I think that's the highest out of all the weapons in the game. I've looked through most of them, but I think that is the highest. If not, it's crazy high. It's way up there. And what this means is that if you are up close, it does have a lot of recoil, and I'll get to that here in a second, but if you are up close and you are able to manage that recoil, you can drop people so quickly, they have literally no time to react. Like, there will be people, this is a great example, when I'm playing on Operation Locker, they round the corner, I'm waiting for them, and I drop them instantaneously. And even when a couple people round the corner, I can nail them back to back, and they don't even do like any damage to me. Like, they have literally no time to react. And since a lot of people are right now using low rate of fire weapons like the AK-12, those weapons are very accurate and they're great for long range engagements. If you get into a firefight who is using one of those weapons with the FAMAS and you're able to manage that recoil, you are going to drop them so fast they have no way of competing against you. But what about that recoil? Is it as bad as it was in Battlefield 3? And I was actually kind of surprised when I went to simtech.com, where I get all of my stats, and if you would like to check that out, I will leave a link down below in the description. I was surprised to see that its recoil is actually a little bit higher than the FAMAS was in Battlefield 3. And that was puzzling to me, because when I was running around with this weapon, it felt like I was managing it easier. Like, it didn't seem like it was as challenging to line up shots and be consistent with those shots. And so I think what it kind of came down to is that the attachments in Battlefield 4 give you more bonuses, and there's less negative aspects of them when you attach them. And if you have the appropriate combination of attachments, which we'll get to here in a second, you can make this thing not a long-range killing machine, but definitely manageable to take people out at medium to long distance and still be fairly accurate with it. But as for the actual recoil numbers, for all you stat junkies out there, you know who you are. The FAMAS has a vertical of 0.4, which is pretty substantial for an assault rifle, which makes sense. I mean, it does need a lot of recoil. But where things do get a little crazy is when you look at its horizontal. It's got a left kick of 0.4 and a right of 0.6, and that's a lot. You compare that to pretty much any assault rifle out there, and it's gonna be the highest. Like, that is a lot of recoil. And so when you first start using this weapon with no attachments, it can be a little daunting. It can seem like it's bouncing all over the place, and you have no way of managing it, and it can seem like you're not able to stay on target, and people are gonna be able to kill you because you're not able to manage that recoil. And I would agree with you. Like, it is a little crazy, but my recommendation is to wait and start to unlock the attachments. And once you get to the attachments, as I mentioned, things do get a little bit easier. One nice thing, though, is that the reload speed on this weapon has been improved compared to Battlefield 3. Its short reload time is going to take you 2.8 seconds to go through the animation, or if you have a bullet in the chamber, but its long reload is going to take you 3.55 seconds. And that may seem like a lot, and it is, but when you compare it to the reload speed from Battlefield 3, its short reload time was 3 seconds and its long reload time was 3.9, almost 4 seconds. And when you are trying to go through that animation and you are in the middle of a firefight, that can feel like an eternity. And while that may not seem like the biggest difference between the two games, trust me, when you're not having to reload as often, or you're not having to go through the animation as often, and you're just not a sitting duck all the time. The overall enjoyment of the weapon is vastly improved, and I think for me that's probably the nicest difference between the two games. And then there is the magazine size, which once again is at 25 rounds per mag, and I know some people out there may be a little disappointed by this news. They were hoping that they may have bumped it up to the normal mag size of all the assault rifles, but basically what DICE has done here is that they've given us a weapon with just an insane amount of firepower, which is its thousands rounds per minute, and then it's got all of these other weaknesses. So it's got a lot of recoil that you have to manage. It's only got 25 rounds in the mag, so if you blow through all those 25 rounds, you're gonna have to go through a reload, and that reload does take a significant amount of time. And so, in my opinion, it is a very skillful weapon, and you do have to approach it much more tactically and conservatively than other weapons out there. And so the question now is, how do you use this weapon effectively, and how do you get the most out of it? And my main recommendation is to never go for someone at a distance. This weapon is not meant for long-range combat. It is meant to get up close and personal and take advantage of that high rounds per minute. And so if you do see someone off in the distance, even if they're out in the open, even if you think that they're the easiest target, don't go for them, because 9 out of 10 times it's an assault player with an AK-12 or the SAR with those laser beam recoils, and they're going to be able to take you out. The suppression effect is no longer as large of a hindrance as it was in Battlefield 3, and so even if you do get some shots around him, he's still going to have no problem taking you out, and he's not going to have to deal with random bullet deviation more. So my main recommendation is don't go for people at a distance. My other recommendation is to burst fire a lot. This is not a weapon where you need to go full auto, even if they are up close. Like if they are just around the corner 5 feet away, it may be very tempting to go full auto, but my recommendation is just to burst fire them down. It's gonna seem like you went full auto against them. Like, trust me, the bullets are gonna fly out of your weapon extremely quickly, and they're gonna die almost instantaneously. And if you hold down the trigger too long, you're going to expel too many bullets, and it's gonna go to waste. And so if you do that too often, you're gonna get into situations where normally you could have taken out 2 or 3, 4 is kind of pushing it, but 3 people could have been taken out easily if you went burst fire, but because you went full auto, you now have to reload, and you're a sitting duck, and you're gonna have to try to take someone out with your pistol, which usually isn't gonna work out when they are using a primary weapon. Alright, so now that we kind of have an understanding of how this weapon performs and kind of how to use it, what are some attachments that will complement this type of playstyle and just complement the weapon? So first off, we have the scopes, and I would recommend pretty much any of the red dot sights, be it the Reflex, the Coyote, or the Cobra. I personally wouldn't go any higher than that because, as I said, we don't want to go for people at a distance, and so I don't think any magnification is really going to be beneficial, but this is really going to come down to personal preference. If you like a scope, you use it on every single one of your weapons, and that's the one you're most comfortable with, then of course go with that. The second accessory slot, in my opinion, is kind of a no-brainer. You should be using the laser sight because it's going to increase your hip-fire accuracy by 25%, and because this is a close encounter weapon, that is going to be a nice addition to it. But the barrel selection is where things get a little bit more interesting and where you have a couple more options. In my opinion, you can use the muzzle brake, which is going to reduce your vertical recoil, the compensator, which is going to reduce your horizontal, or the suppressor, which will keep you off the minimap. In my opinion, the compensator is the best out of the 3 because the horizontal is crazy on the Famas, and the more you can reduce that, the better. But you have to remember that for both the muzzle brake and the compensator, it is going to have a penalty to your accuracy of automatic fire. That shouldn't really be too much of a problem because, as I said, you should be tap firing more than you should be holding down the trigger, so it really isn't that large of an issue, but it is something that you have to take into consideration. As for the underbarrel attachments, I would say this is a toss-up between the Ergo Grip, which is going to make your hipfire accuracy on the move improve by 50%, or the Angle Grip, which is going to reduce your initial recoil by 33%. I like to use the Angle Grip. I don't really like to hipfire very very much with the, with the Famas. I like the accuracy. I want to make sure that I'm using all of my rounds to their fullest. I don't want to have any of them go to waste, and so I'm going to be aiming down sight a lot more than I'm going to be hip firing, and so I prefer the angle grip. But if you want to run around with this thing and hip fire, I mean, it's going to work, and I would go with the ergo grip if you're going to go down that route. But yeah, guys, that is my review of the Famas for Battlefield 4. I hope you guys enjoyed. If you have unlocked this, what do you think about it? Do you like it as much as I do? Let me know down below in the comment section. But that is about it for today's video, guys. I hope you enjoyed, and so until tomorrow, have a good one, and take it easy.